Guys, I'm back after a long break, if that's what you want to call it. The irony is not lost on me that I ended with a video talking about motivation, and then I just completely dropped off and quit making videos. So it's very ironic. That's where we ended up. But it wasn't my intention to take such a long break. I skipped a few weeks and got busy and never got back into the swing of things. So got out of that routine. But I am back here with another video for you guys. And I've been still doing game development. We'll share a little bit about that, what I've been up to. It is actually going to bleed into today's topic, which is going to be talking about small wins as a game developer. Small wins are very important, especially when you're first starting out. So we'll go over that, what small wins look like and why they're important as a game developer. We're going to start off by defining what is a small win, or just put a definition to it or examples. And so small wins, what I mean by that is, especially when you're first starting out, it could be something as simple as completing a tutorial. And hopefully you're picking a tutorial in the genre that you want to build the game for. So let's say if you want to make a platformer, then do a 10-hour tutorial on how to make a platformer, something super simple. And if you're a little more advanced in programming for a while and you want deeper mechanics, you can do a 30-hour tutorial and that's fine. But what it is something reasonable. Like you can push through and finish that and hopefully not getting stuck because you are watching tutorials. It's kind of one-on-one, and take notes over it and do what you need to do to get the most out of that experience. And that could be like a small win after you get done, because then you're kind of hyped, you got a little bit more knowledge in what you want to build, and you can start feeling more prepared to make that next game. It's going to give you a small little dopamine hit. That what we want is in our journey. You don't want a big long grind. You want to consistently stop along the way from milestones, hit little bitty dopamine hits to let you know, like, hey, I'm accomplishing something. If you start off where you're going to do an epic RPG and it's going to take you 2 years to make, and that's like your first project ever, you might not ever make it to the finish line, because it's a slugfest there, and you may not have the motivation or determination to be able to make it all the way through. Game development is very similar to like going to the gym. You don't go into the gym and instantly start lifting the heavy weights or do like a 3-hour workout. Usually what you're going to do is you're going to start, with the smaller weights, and then after you've been working out for a while, start looking up some supplements, and that will let you progress even farther. You're not as sore and you can work out more in one day, but it builds up over time. You just don't instantly go in there and you're like really phenomenal and you start doing all this heavy weight. You build up to it. And that's like a perfect example of what game development is. You're gonna have to slowly do some like workouts to get to that point where you can do that new max rep, which would be like building out a game. And it's important to do max reps. And so even with these small wins, after you do that tutorial, and maybe you do some other stuff on the side. So small win could be something like, I want to learn how to make a dash mechanic for my character. And you look up a small itty bitty tutorial and get a dash mechanic, and you look up some other stuff to make it look prettier, where it has like a little like drag feature, like the wind going past them as he's dashing. And by the time you're done with that dash mechanic, I mean, that could be like a little dopamine hit, and you're like recording it, showing your friends like, look, I got this character to dash. I mean, the game's almost done basically. And so it's really good to get those small little wins in. And once you do that, then start building out a game, but it's like a smaller game, a small little prototype of something. And it could literally be just like a character where it starts from one side of the screen and you go to the other end of the screen, and that's like a level, and you just have several levels of that. But in between there, there's like obstacles to dodge and jump over, and little platforms, and maybe gaps where you are forced to use your dash mechanic that you created. That's a perfect example. I encourage anyone out there, if you're brand new, especially if you want to make a 2D platformer, make a game like that. And it's not going to be the most fun, but man, when you finish it and you add some sound effects to it, you add a menu system to it, it's gonna feel so good. You're gonna share it to all your friends, and no, you're not gonna be able to sell it. You probably release it on itch for free, but that's going to build up like your callus as a game developer and get you more motivated. Like, yes, I can do this. I just have to put in some more workouts, some more max reps, make a little bit more difficult games, and boom, there I go. And so I've done this myself, and it bleeds into a little bit what I've been up to. And so I've done plenty of tutorials out there and released games through tutorials. And there's game, it's not it's not something that they're cool at the time. I do share them with people, but I'm not super excited about them because they're one-to-one tutorial. There's probably people out there I share them with that's in the game development community, and they know exactly where that game came from. They're like, yeah, I made that same game, you know, been there, done that. And so what ended up happening is I ended up meeting someone else who is a artist, and for our first project, and this is something I encourage all of you to do if you are trying to collaborate with others or put together a full game. So let's say if you're like me and you're only a programmer and you don't know anything about art, or you don't want to do the art, maybe because I know a little bit about art theory, about like animations and stuff, especially when it comes to a 2D game, but I'm not going to be the one sitting down and drawing it out. I could explain to an artist, this is what the tile map needs to look like, this is how the animations are going to be cut up, and this is what we need to do, but I don't want to be the one drawing it. And so this was this guy's first game, and I could show him like the little tutorials I made and be like, hey, you know, I'm building up into it. And believe it or not, I actually had a small little prototype of this game. So what it was is I started with a little character that moved across the screen, just dodging little obstacles. It was very simplistic and arcadey looking, made of circles and squares. That's all it was made out of. It wasn't anything impressive looking. And so what I told him, let's take this a step further, put some art to it and maybe a concept, and we'll figure it out. And so what we ended up doing was we made this game where you're an archaeologist going through a pyramid. So it kind of fit the theme of like, hey, we need to dodge traps. And sometimes that's good. If you build a game mechanic and you're like, what could this be? Like, you could figure out what game it could be in. So sometimes I encourage you that just make something where it's a platformer, but when you press a certain button, your gravity scale, you know, gets flipped upside down. And so like your character goes up in there and he's on like the ceiling, and that's like his world, that's like the top, and he jumps and he goes down and comes back up. You know, make a little bitty mechanic like that and be like, what could I add to this? Like, what's the world that we're in now? Because I got the mechanic done, what world am I going to add? And so that's what we did. We made a mechanic. And a lot of it was built out without even art while he was working on the art. And eventually when we got the art in and we started piecing it all together, that's when the game really started coming together. And you could even see it where you had the art, where it looked like the pyramid, you had the character, you had little snakes that you're dodging. But when you press the menu button, the menu came up, it was just like a black square with like some generic looking buttons. And it didn't fit the game theme at all. Like, you tell it wasn't part of it. And the same with the menu was just like play or quit. And then you push play and it's like, wow, it looks 100% different because it's not just generic looking. And so, but you keep adding to it. And so I encourage like programmers that get stuck, make something simple, and then you could reach out to an artist like, I already got this game made, man. All I need is some art. Give me some art, and then you slap your name on it as the artist. And so that's what we did. And it sparked a friendship between me and him. The game's called Pyramid Heist. It's got 15 levels. It's like a little puzzle. I'm not sure what you would call it, like adventure puzzler would probably be a good description for it. And it's got, you don't really have a save feature, but it's got like a little level select. So as you beat levels, it will save what your level select on. So you can always go back and replay it. But it's got some very unique mechanics. I might even eventually one of these days do up a video where I actually record myself playing the game and just go over the certain things that we built, because there's some interesting things in there. But I encourage all of you guys that play it. I'll put a link down in the description. 100% free. You can go on itch.io. You can download it from itch.io, or there's a link to another website, which I feel like is a little bit easier to upload browser games on. And so there's a browser version of it as well. So you don't have to download it, but you can download it from itch.io. It's 100% free. And I recommend doing that over playing it through the web browser, because it's a little more clunky when you're playing the web browser. So it wasn't built with like web browser in mind. If anything, I actually had to go back and re-edit the code after we 100% made the game. And after, again, newbie programmer here, some of the stuff is starting to break on me, because I just, you know, you live and learn and you start figuring stuff out as you go, but you don't want to go back and recode everything because the game's almost done. And so I went back and recoded a little bit of it, so that way we could actually put it on the web browser of the website. And so again, I'll put a link down in the description. Encourage all of you guys to go play it. But that's a perfect example in what I've been up to. It's kind of a small win, and it's kind of an increase both of us as far as just like where we're at. It's me as a programmer, him as an artist, and now we're working towards our next steps together. And again, this kind of sparked a friendship where me and him's been doing stuff. We did a game jam not too long ago together. That was like a little like a library builder game, and so it's been real nice. But that leads me to another thing as far as these small wins. where do they lead? And so I'm telling you to do small wins, and you're like, that's great, but where is this eventually going to get me? And that's what I want to go over next. And so that's the first thing, is to help you collaborate. So if you kind of have some example projects for other people, you can kind of show them off. And honestly, I kind of look towards that stuff anyways when I'm on like the Discord servers and I'm trying to find people to collaborate. I usually want to find somebody who's not saying that they're a programmer and they've been programming for 10 years but never made a game. Like, they couldn't link me a game. And so that's always terrible. And there's tons of people out there that's like that. And I'm not hating on you. If you're a programmer who's been programming for 10 years and I ask you, link me one of your games, and you literally can't, you probably need to be following this advice right now, because that's probably what you're doing, is you're lacking the confidence or not thinking small enough scale, and you're never going to get anywhere no matter how far along you get, because you could be this really advanced programmer without projects you could show somebody on a resume or an application. No one, nobody believes you, because there's so many people out there that say they're a programmer, but if you don't have anything to link, you're a dime a dozen, and it's not reflective of your skill set. And I would argue how skilled you are if you never took a game to completion, because you're gonna run into speed bumps that you never did just by making smaller projects. Another thing is, if you want to get a publisher for a bigger game, if the first project you ever made, let's say if you're like the guy that made Stardew Valley, you're phenomenal, and you made this like epic game, unless you just have a really polished demo and then you're at the end of the project and then you show it to a publisher, then maybe you have a chance. But if you're kind of in the starting phases and you kind of want to go full time and want the funding to do it, a publisher needs proof that you're going to be able to see this project to the end. And smaller projects are an excellent example of that. So if you're making an RPG and you made several games where this game's focused on combat, this game is focused on base building, this game has a really advanced inventory and crafting system, well, he probably can't do this because he's done this for all these small little games. All he's got to do is pull them together into one, and he's got the game. And so it's kind of a proof in concept that you can actually do it, and a publisher will be more likely to fund your game if that's the approach that you're taking for funding your projects and going full time. And ultimately, it's just practice. And that's basically what we've been talking about this entire time. That's ultimately what small wins are. It's just the workouts and the practice until eventually you're able to put together a game that you've always dreamed of. Thank you guys for watching this video until the end. Hopefully this advice struck a chord in you, and maybe you have a little bit of guidance now, or a little more motivated as far as where to go in your game development journey. There's no right or wrong way in game development, and there's multiple paths to take. However, I will say this is probably the most obvious and probably the one most traveled as far as people getting started and actually leading to success, because those that jump into the deep end and try to create this epic game eventually just don't come out on top. So just always remember that all success is a series of small victories.